Okay, I think we're live. It's Wednesday. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Wednesday live tutorial. My name is Michele, and I'm the owner of Vintage Revival Design Co. in Northern Virginia. And we're live. I don't know where you're watching from. Let me know. We are live on Roycycled and YouTube and my page, Vintage Revival Design Co. And I'm just so glad you're here. So, the new stencils came out from Roycycled. And so I was really excited, and it was hard to choose which stencil I was going to use, but I thought, you know what? I've loved watching. They had their creative team. Hello, Joanne. How are you? Thank you so much for saying hello. So Royce had her creative team doing projects with the apothecary stencil. And it's been so much fun to see the different projects that the creative team, past and present, has created. But I thought, okay, I'm going to use a different stencil. And so, like I said, it was really hard to choose, but I went ahead and chose the frame stencil. And we're going to be, you guys, I am still working from my Christmas masterboard. And so we're going to be using this because I love it so much. It's an image that I've saved for something that I'm going to keep this one for myself, actually. And I can always make another one, but I'm going to keep this one for myself. As long as she has the paper in stock, I can always make another one, right? So we're going to be working from the Christmas masterboard. This is this image. We've done a lot of projects recently with this paper. And so, hi, Sheila. How are you? Thank you so much for saying hello. So we're going to be working. Let me pull up my project because, we need to just get into it, right? So hold on one second. All right, let me show you what we're going to be working with. Let me know if the lighting's okay. I tried to do my best. We're going to pray for internet goodness, right? Let's all just, wish for that. Because I have really struggled with that lately. So I'm going to be working on a board. This is a panel board. But we're going to be working on this side. We're going to be using the paper that I showed you, which is just one piece of the Christmas masterboard paper. And we're going to be working with I love this so much. And I hope that my idea is going to show you how versatile these stencils can be. So in this stencil release, they came out with a new size. This one is actually a 12 by 17. My package shows 12 by 12, but I need you to know that this is actually a 12 by 17 stencil. And it'll show you that description. If you're on my website, it's going to show you that it's actually a 12 by 17, and that's what you're getting. So the packaging looks like this, and you can see it says 12 by 12, but that's not it. Don't pay attention to that. Just pay attention to the stencil. So what's really lovely about this is that it's very versatile, and that's what I want to show you. We're also going to be working with I don't usually do this, but I'm going to be giving you a recipe for a DIY homemade texture paste, and that's what we're going to be working with. And so my idea is to create something really, really pretty with this, and I'm going to keep this for myself. And yeah, I love this image, and I just love the florals. I love that it really isn't holiday specific. You could consider it holiday specific since it has oranges and yellows and kind of some fall colors in there, but I think it's beautiful all year round. So we're going to be working with some metallic paint. As I said, a homemade texture paste. I'm going to give you the recipe for that. So if you want to grab a Post-it note or something like that, you'll be able to write down the recipe for that and make it yourself. And then I'm also going to use this stencil, and we're going to really do up the outside frame. And so I love working on these panel boards because you can work on the recessed area or the cradle part, or you can work on the flip side. And so I really want to work on this cradle part. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to get my glasses. I actually didn't lose them, and I'm going to do this, but I want to go ahead and I want to get as much of this floral design. Now, I happen to be able to see up here, and I think you can too. that I can see a little bit. I've got a little bit of a shadow that is super, super helpful to me. And I want to get as much of the floral image as I can. But I don't want to really cut it off too much. I don't actually want this red dot up here. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to position that in a way that doesn't, interfere with that. Hi, Melissa, how are you? And let's go with, I'm just going to try to find okay, I'm going to try it this way. All right, so I've got my paper positioned over the panel, and the difficult part about this sometimes is just getting it to line up. And so what I like to do is just to kind of put my finger in the middle and just to kind of hold it in place, and then I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. We are going to have to do a little bit of messing with this because we are going in, when I say messing with this, I mean, we are going in a recessed panel. So it can be a little bit difficult, but I find if I use you don't want a sharp stylus, you want something that has a little bit of it's going to be a little cloudy here, but this has a little bit of a ball. So it's not a really sharp a sharp tip. And so you want to work with something like that. You can also just use your fingernails if you're comfortable with that. But I'm kind of pushing it in with my fingernails, but then I'm really getting that outline here with this, and I might still be a little bit over, but we're just this is the way that I figured it out. Sometimes I tear my paper a little bit, but I just want to kind of get that outline of where I want this image to go. I just think this is the most beautiful floral image. And again, I don't feel that it's holiday specific. So when you use your stylus or your fingernails, you should kind of have an outline here. And here you can see that I wasn't really great on my corners. So when I get to this edge, I'm going to just kind of cut straight across. Here, I've got a little bit of a tear, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. Let's just go ahead and cut it and see what we've got. So I'm going to lay it out like this. And again, you can kind of see the outline here. And what you really want to do when you're working in a recessed panel, maybe you're doing a tray or something like that, you just want to be able to get it as close as you possibly can. I'm cutting off the biggest edge first because that's going to just help me not have too much paper. So here's the area where my corner is not actually straight. And so I am going to go in here. And I'll show you with some metallic paint how we can make, all right, here I am at the part where I didn't get my corner straight. So what I want to do is instead of following this crease, which was the accident, I'm going to try to cut as straight as I can, right? So I want to follow kind of the crease line that I have and go from there. So let's go here, come here. All right, and we're going to cut these. I just love, love, love this floral image. It is so, so beautiful. And I'm going to come here. And even though I have that little tear that I did with my stylus, I'm not going to be too worried about it. Okay. So now I've got an image that you can tell this isn't perfectly square, but we're going to go ahead and put it in there and see how we're doing. Like, do we have another area that we need to cut? I might be a little short on one area, a little long on another. I'll see, but I did get pretty close. So I think I'm going to be good with this. And I think the rest of it I can just do with my my paint, my metallic paint that I'm going to use. So what I like about these cradles is that it already looks like it has a beautiful frame built in, and I just love that. So hello, Linda, how are you? And thank you so much for being here and saying hello. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of position that there. Let me grab some plastic wrap real quick. I've got my cart is a little bit of a mess. It's pretty overflowing right now. And so I'm just going to get a little bit of plastic wrap, and I'm actually going to be using plastic wrap, and I'm going to be using the felt squeegee because I want to be able to get in these corners here, and with a crumpled up piece of plastic wrap, I won't be able to get in those corners. So you can see that if I use the edge of my squeegee, I'm going to be able to get in there, etc. So I want to try to do that. I'm going to try to just move this a little bit. You can see in here that it's not actually perfectly square, but we're going to be able to work with that. Thank you so much, Shannon. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And so what I want to do is I'm going to hold this down. I have my, let's see what I've got. I have my OHE clear matte. Again, use whatever, I say this every time, use whatever decoupage medium you are comfortable with and feels good to you. That is what's most important. If you are comfortable with the product, then your projects are going to turn out great. So I'm just going to lift a corner up here. I'm going to try to be gentle. I want to lift a corner so that I have an area to start decoupaging from. And so I'm going to start here, and I'm going to just use a brush and get some decoupage medium in here. It's a little tricky when you're working on these. You want to make sure that you're getting all of the areas, the recessed areas. I find it a little more tricky to work in a recessed area than on, say, the back side of a panel like this. We're just going to do it in two parts. We're going to start here, and then we're going to go to the other side and do that part. So I'm going to just do a line here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my paper down. I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to use my felt squeegee to push this paper in place. Okay? Just like that. I love these little felt squeegees. By now, everybody has talked about how much they love them, and I would imagine that you have one in your stash. I wouldn't be surprised if you did. And so I'm going to come here. I want to make sure I get in those corners. That can always be the trickiest part. So when you're working on something that is rectangular or square, a flat brush is my favorite, not a round, because you want to make sure that you can get in all the corners, all the grooves, all of that. And so I lifted just slightly back from where I had my decoupage medium placed before, and I offloaded my brush up at this area. And as I move towards my paper, I have less medium. I don't want it to get too wet. I don't want to risk a tear. And we're going to go from there. Let me just make sure that I've got that. I want to make sure that I've got medium everywhere that I need it. Hi, Jill. Hi, Diane. Thank you so much for being here. All right, so we're working with this, and I'm going to use my felt squeegee here just like this, right? Just like that. And I just love, love, love this image. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And like I said, I think it is good for year round. And we're going to just do this up a little bit. I have loved this paper for a really long time. I love the papers that, I love the seasonal papers, but I really love the papers that you can get something out of year round because they're really, really versatile that way. I'm going to go ahead and seal this up, and I don't have to do any sanding, so I'm not worried about it being too wet for me to sand. And so I'm just going to go ahead and seal this up. And this is the other thing that I really enjoy about using a recessed panel. And everybody, if I freeze for any reason, I would appreciate it if somebody would let me know. I'm on a different network here, so I'm hoping that it's going to work. I've really struggled lately with my internet issues. And so I would appreciate it if you guys would give me a heads up. Thank you so much. All right, so we have our image in place. I'm going to go ahead and put that down. And now this is the part that I want to share with you. So tonight I'm going to be using a homemade texture paste. I just label them. I make this up. You can't store this for too long, but so I try to, oh, thank you, Linda. I really appreciate that. And so I am making this. So if you have a Post-it note or a little scrap piece of paper, or you can come back and, find this section, just look for the part where I'm holding the jar, you'll get the recipe. So this is basically, I put this in a jar and I make a little bit at a time. This is a 4-ounce jar, so I never make more than 4 ounces. But the recipe for this is 3 tablespoons of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of glue. I happen to use the Tight Bond glue. Let me see if I can, where do I have it? So I happen to use this, but you could use Elmer's school glue or something like that. But I use the Tight Bond because it's what I have and I use it for most things. So I just use what I have. And then you want to add 1 teaspoon. So it's 3 tablespoons of baking soda, 3 tables or 1, I'm sorry, let's start over. 3 tablespoons of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of glue, either the Elmer School glue or the Tight Bond like I use, and then you want 1 tablespoon of the an acrylic paint. So I happen to use white acrylic paint. You could use chalk paint. You could use a latex paint, but you're going to need to play with the consistency of it. So you want this to be kind of thick like this. It's very, very pasty. And so I can stir this up like this. And again, don't make a ton of it. Don't make like a giant jar of it because it won't keep as long as something like salt wash. I really love to use Venetian plaster for doing raised stenciling, but I just like this because I can dry it very quickly with my heat gun, and then we're good to go. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and we're going to work on a raised stencil for this. Hello, Carmen. Welcome. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for saying hello. So I love this frame stencil. I got to see it actually. Royce had it at the event that Carmen held in Colorado last month. And so I did get to see it in person. And one of the things that she said was that she really loved this because it was versatile. Like you could start here and end here. And so we're going to stretch this out. What I think is going to work and what I hope to show you is not so much about raised stenciling, but what I want to share with you is that I feel like these stencils are so versatile. And not only can this one be condensed or stretched or something like this, but I also think that even though this is an oval, this is what I want to try tonight, is that I think that even an oval shape can be used on a square shape. And so let's all cross our fingers that this actually works. And yes, you can use chalk paint in the recipe, Sheila. It's going to, it's not going to last you as long. So if you're using chalk paint, please just mix up what you think you need for the project. And then it should probably keep for a couple of days, but chalk paint dries out really quickly. I don't know, just play with it. I always err when I'm making these DIY concoctions is just to try to make what I think I'm going to need. So I want to use this oval shape. I thought about using this one, right? This taller one, but this little design here. And I thought about, okay, well, I'll do that, but it could be done. But I think the size of the frame lends itself better to the design of this oval shape, but I'm working with the square shape, right? So I want to kind of line up this little area right here. You can see this tiny little bit where the stencil ends. And yes, Linda, they can be very economical. I will be honest and say I would not use this recipe on a large piece of furniture. But I know that it holds up really well for craft projects or something like this that's going to be on the wall, that it's going to be held a lot. And so I think you need to weigh using something like a salt wash or a Venetian plaster or a a product that is designed for texture and raised stenciling versus a homemade recipe like this. But a homemade recipe like this is perfect for, decor projects that aren't going to be, held a lot, handled a lot, anything like that. So what I'm trying to do is I'm looking at this little piece that joins the stencil, and I'm trying to kind of line this up here. Okay. And then this is going to be a little tricky, but I want to show you that with a little patience, okay, this is going to be the longest part of our project tonight because we've already done our decoupage. But with a little patience, this can actually work. Okay. I don't know how I want to do this. I think we're just going to go here. I'm going to put a little piece of tape down here to hold this. Okay. Now I'm using this spatula is a silicone spatula. You don't have to have this, but I wanted something little. I wanted something small. So this spatula is what I've started to use for my gluing my molds and things like that onto my, I use my Type Bond glue, and I use this spatula. It's silicone. The glue, when it's dried, peels right off. And I just love that. But anyway, I went back. I got a set of 6 on Amazon. And when I went to post that, excuse me, in my Amazon shop, I couldn't find the set of 6. So if you would like to buy 30 of these for $7.99, you can find the link on my website under my Amazon favorites. But they are really cool. I'm not going through a bunch of popsicle sticks, and the glue dries and then peels right off. So I love them. But you could use any kind of silicone stick or anything like that. So what I want to do is I do want to decide where I want this to go, because we're going to be turning this around and doing this a little bit differently. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of tape off. I just want to do these corners right now, and then we're going to build on them. Okay. Let me see where I want that to go. I want that whole one right there. Right. And so again, this is a lot of patience, but you can use an oval shape of the stencil and work with your non-oval shape. Is that the right way to say that? I don't know, but we're going to give it a shot. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and piece this. Again, you may think that this is just way too much effort, but I have my heart set on this design on my frame. Okay, so we're going to go with that. I'm going to do a little piece here, and we'll try to reuse the tape if we can, but I just want you to know that you can do this. And we may even try, we're going to see if after I get these corners done, if I like that whole thing. So let's just go ahead. We're going to do a little bit. So I've got this. I'm going to stir it up really well. You always want to stir your homemade recipes up before you do this. And then what I'm going to do is I like to go, if the stencil could be pulled back by my movement, I like to go in a direction that actually forces it down. I hope that makes sense. There's nothing worse than having a Mylar stencil. Now that it has medium in it, I can go this way. But when I'm first laying my medium down, what I like to do is try to go in an opposite direction of, I don't want to lift the Mylar parts. So I try to think about how would they lift, right? How would they pull up if I were doing this? And so I want to try to keep those pieces down. I'm not sure how to explain that. I'm going to have to find better words for that. But that's what I'm thinking. So now I'm just going to lift that up. And now we have this corner piece here. We're going to work on all the corners, dry them, and then we are going to, work on the sides. So I want to be careful here, right? So I've got this piece right here. I love that. I think the corner turned out great. And I want to try to do this way. I don't want to get that part with the, okay, I'm going to have to dry this because it is going to, my stencil, the excess stencil, the excess Mylar, I'm going to go ahead and clean that up with my fingers before it's completely dry. We're going to go ahead and dry this up. So we'll do the corners and then we'll go ahead and do that. Yes, you don't want to lift the stencil. The saddest thing is to have a beautiful stencil and then to lift up the part and then there's something about the Mylar that it will never go flat again. And so it's important to pay attention to the way your stencil is going to lift. And I'll try to be more clear about that as we go forward. Okay. So here, I love the beautiful corner that this is put on this. And it's a great start to the design. This is still a little too soft. And that can be a tricky part. And it's just because the width of the actual stencil is wider than I need. If I had been working on a larger piece, I think it would have been fine. But this is not it. So I'm going to test this a little bit. It's not going to be completely dry, but we're going to see what we can work on. Maybe if I do this opposite side. Nope. So you can see what I mean. If I go here, I'm going to have a little bit of the stencil here. So I might just try to do it with a little, just like a little holding it here. Let's try to, oh Lord. Okay, let's see what we can do, guys. I know what I want, but I don't want to flatten my stencil in the process, right? So I'm trying to go, where is my corner? Let me go here. Trying to go in my corner here. All right, I'm going to hold this. This is going to be tricky, okay? I'm going to hold this. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going in there. We're going to do the best that we can. So what I'm doing is I'm holding this part so that I can make sure that it's not flattening this part. Okay. If that makes any sense. And so again, I'm going to go in the direction of my stencil. So I'm not lifting any parts. Okay. And I just want to get this corner piece down. And I'm going to lift up. Just like this. And now that that's down, I can go a little, might need to stir this a little bit better. Okay, let's lift up and see what we've got. All right, and so here what we have is a little bit, so I can take my finger while this is wet and just kind of gently push away. So that's what we're doing here. And I'm going to, that's what an apron's for. So we'll do that. And now I'm going to try to position this again. I'm going to try to line this up and go here, hold this up. Ugh, I'm sure it's not going to be perfect, right? Because I'm holding this with one hand and you know, doing all of this with the other, but we're going to just give it our best shot. Okay. I just want a raised stencil frame, just kind of like those more ornate frames. And I didn't want to be deterred by the fact that this is an oval stencil. Because I don't think that that should stop us from doing what we want to do, right? And so the product that I'm using, Joanne, you'll have to go back and watch more from almost the beginning. After we take a pause, you'll see that I'm holding, if you watch the replay, you'll see that I'm holding a jar, but we made a DIY stencil, texture paste. So it's pretty even just with the corners, right? And so we've got one more to do, and then we're going to dry this up as best as we can. And then we will add the corners. So I actually like it even just with the corners. I think that's really pretty. And let me see, where is my stencil? So I've masked off that, and I want to try to line that up with that and see if I'm pretty close. I think I'm pretty close. All right, so here I have to hold it in a couple of spots. So this is going to be a little tricky, guys. You're not going to be able to see as well because now I'm having to protect 3 corners. Okay, and I want to keep that in place. Okay, so I'm going to pull this here just like that, right? I'm going to hold it down like that. And as long as I'm not bending it like completely in half, I think we're going to be okay. So again, I'm going in the direction that isn't going to pull the bits of my stencil. I don't think every corner that I'm doing is going to be absolutely perfect. And again, I would prefer probably Venetian plaster or salt wash for this, but I need it to dry up pretty quickly. And for a decor project like this, a DIY texture paste is just fine. But please don't use this like on a piece of furniture or something that's going to get a lot of heavy use, because I don't feel confident that it would really hold up super, super well. And so here I'm going to use my finger and come here. And so now we have our corners done, right? And thank you, Shannon. I appreciate that. Thank you for doing the timing of that. And you're welcome, Joanne. So I'm going to put my lid back on this. I still have a little bit that I can use. And so we're going to dry this up really quick, and then we're going to go ahead and figure out what we're going to do with the sides. I don't know if I want to use a different part of the stencil or if I want to use the same part of the stencil. I'm really not sure. Yes, a ruler across the parts done would be great. Mine are too wet. And so I just want to give them enough time to dry and be okay, right? Because this doesn't get super, super hard like the plaster does. It gets hard enough, but it usually takes a little bit of time to dry. But again, if you're wanting to do a raised stencil and you have time and you're not trying to do this within 30 minutes or an hour, you could do something like this, let it dry overnight, and then come back and finish the rest. So it's all about like, how much time do you have? What are you trying to accomplish? If I were doing this on a piece of furniture, I would not use the homemade recipe, but it works great for things like this. So let's get this dried up as much as we can. Okay. Still going to be a little damp, but I think we're going to have more. I can tell. So it'll be, you can tell that the homemade texture paste is going to look a little bit damp and wet when you're working with it, but when you dry, it's going to seem more matte and flat. Not flat, but it's going to seem more matte. So I think that's really good. A good way to tell. Awesome. Okay, let's do this. Okay, it's feeling pretty dry. This one needs just a little bit more. I just want to feel if I can push it down, then that's a problem. All right. So now what I wanted to decide is, do I want to be fussy with that, or do I just want to connect these parts here? And I think for this project, I would be okay just doing this little bit here. And so I thought about, like You could be really fussy with it and, you know, kind of come here and make it super. But here's what I'm thinking, guys. This is already a fairly busy pattern, and I really don't want to take away from that. And we're going to be painting all of this out in a metallic. And so I think I love the ornate corners. I think that's beautiful. But what I really think I want to do is just do something a little more simple here on this. And so what I don't want to be done is I don't want to have, like, I don't want this part, right, to be here. So I'm going to tape that off. And then I don't want this part. I can fill in here if I want to. So you can mask off the areas that you don't want any of your, you know, you don't want that on. And then I'll show you how we can even use a paintbrush to fill in with the texture paste, the areas that we do want. So obviously, well, no, it's probably not obvious, actually. I am going to want to do my long sides first because I will probably want to tape off a little extra on the short sides. So let's do both of our long sides first. I'm going to try to position these as much as I can in between. And again, I'm going to use my shadow right here. And we're going to try this. I'm going to go ahead and just be super careful. I'm going to hold my fingers right here. Are we all holding our breath? And then I went ahead and did my, I don't know what I just did here. Hold on one second. All right, let's use our, we're going to do this. And I'm going to get this out of here. I'm going to stir this up really well again. And again, this is more of our DIY texture paste. I don't want to get any of these little squiggles over here. So I'm going to go ahead and start here. And I'm going to go in one direction and then I'll come in the back and do the other. So now what I'm doing is I'm using a piece of the taller stencil that's in here. Okay. And I'm going to hold this down here. I'm going to add a little bit more. It gets a little grainy, the homemade. Okay, and then let's lift up. And so now I have a little here, and it'll just give a little bit of the line to this, okay? And so now I'm going to come here, and it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to turn it the other way, and we're going to lay it down here and try to position it in the center. Try to line it up as best as we can. Okay. And center it as best as we can. And I'm going to hold this in place. And I think once we get our paint on, it's not going to be as big of an issue. So I'm just laying this down using my little spreader. I was going to do this on a flat canvas, but I was really trying to decide, what do I want to do this on? And I was going to do this on a flat canvas, but I thought, I really like the idea of having the frame already built in, so I can put that in there. Oops, I'm missing a little bit here where it didn't spread quite properly. Okay, let's do that. While it's wet, we have a little working time, and we can lift this up. And I've got a little bit of an issue here. I'm going to put a little here, just like that, where I messed up just a little bit. And then I'm going to use my stylus, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to kind of pat that down a little bit. So this is wet and takes a little longer to dry. So you have more working time to work with that. Okay. So now we've got our sides done and we're going to be able to do the short sides. So let's look at where we want to do those. The nice part is that I've got a good idea. I think I'm going to do a little bit. I'm going to take off this wet tape because nothing will stick to that. And I want to pull this and see what I did here is I pulled my stencil. So I'm going to have to set a book on that to fix that. But I want to see where my stencil is lifting. And I'm going to be super gentle so I don't pull up the delicate bits like I did here. So what I will do is to fix that tonight, not tomorrow, but tonight, is I'm going to put a piece of tape under this, and then I'm going to stick this under a book. So here's what I'll show you that before we leave. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe up before we do this. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad, Carmen or Shannon. Thank you so much. So this is the part where this is what can happen if you lift up where you shouldn't, it's going to stick up. So instead, what I'm going to do, in fact, I'll just go ahead and do it now. I'm going to put a little piece of tape under that to hold it because I'm not going to need that section anyway for this. So I'm going to turn this upside down. And how I'm going to fix this is I'm going to attach a piece of tape to this. And then when I'm done tonight, I'm going to place a heavy book on top of this. And this will allow me to get it kind of back into shape. So that is always the risk of when you're working with these stencils. And then this is the other thing, is that I actually want this part of the stencil. So I'm going to just plug this right here. Okay. So now I have the part that I want to hold down and I can just keep that in place like that. Okay. And so now what I want to do is we're just going to go ahead and line this up. I'm going to go ahead and do this part, except that it's going to go on that. All right, let's do this here. I'm going to go here and we're going to go in here. And I've got a little bit of an area that my stencil medium is a little wet, but I'm going to try to go, I'm going to go like this, and then I'll show you how we can fill it in if we need to. But I kind of want to work with this, and I want to go like this. Okay, let's just go ahead and put a little bit of stencil medium in here like this. And we'll go from there. Okay. And then I promise we're going to get to the painting part. We'll dry this up and then we'll do the painting part. So it takes a little bit of effort, but I think the hard part is that sometimes when you see a package and you see a shape, you automatically feel that the only thing that you can do with that is limited to how it presents itself. So if it's oval, you think, oh, I need an oval project. If it's square or large or rectangular, you feel like, oh, it has to be that size. Like the stencil is a 12 by 17, or maybe it's a 12 by 12 stencil. But I want you to understand that you can adjust. It just takes a little bit of effort and a whole lot of patience, but it's totally fun and totally worth it. Okay. So we have this part, and already we're getting a little more area for our frame, and it's super fun, and we're filling it in. I just want to line these up so that I get that. And we're going to do the last one. We're going to dry it up and then we're going to paint it out. Okay. Thank you so much, Linda. I appreciate it. I know this was long, and that's the beauty of replay, right? Is that we can do different things and you can see it whenever it's convenient for you. I know I watch a lot on replay because there's so much to watch, right? There's so much to see. Okay, let's see. Did we get that? Yep. Okay. So here we have this is our design. So imagine that this is the decorative part of our frame. So you had raised molding or something like that. So I'm going to just go ahead and wipe that off, put that in there. We'll close this, and then let's go ahead and dry this up, and then we will paint it out. Okay. So this is using the large part of the stencil and the oval part of the stencil. We used the oval part for our corners, and then we just used the straight, kind of curvy straight areas for the, just to kind of fill in. I wanted to go with this bit, and I'll do that on another project, but we only have so much time for a live. So I decided I would just go with the straight bits. And I also don't want to compete with this really beautiful paper. I don't want it to be too busy everywhere. And so, yeah, so I think that is important to think about. What do I really want to see? I really want to see a pretty frame, but I also really want the focal point to be this paper. And so we're going to I'm going to be using, I'm trying to decide between gold dust and bronze, but I think I'm going to use the gold dust. And to make it all fit in, we're going to just kind of highlight a few areas of our decoupage paper with the metallic paint. And I want to straighten this out here, just like that. I don't think it'll be too important, but this is what we're going to do. So we're going to just add a few little metallic highlights just to make this make sense. Okay, I want to make sure that my stencil paste is, my texture paste is super dry before I add a water-based medium to it. So I'll dry this up and I'll let it dry a little bit more on its own. And we will do that with the metallic paint inside. I'm going to highlight some of the berries, highlight some of these areas. I don't know. We're just going to see wherever it makes sense. But you can paint your paper. And I especially recommend not applying paint to your paper until you have actually sealed it, which we already did. We already did that. Okay, so this is dry enough for me to go to the next step. And so what I want to do is I'm actually just going to use this because I didn't get anything out. So I didn't get a little container out for me to do this with. So I'm going to be using Wise Owl's Heavy Metals Metallic Paint in Gold Dust. And I'm going to put a little bit out here. I think it's a beautiful color and a really nice complement for the paper since it does have some yellows in it. So I kind of figured that out while we were doing this. And I'm going to use a tiny little brush. It's just tiny. Hi, Gunner. Hi. Did you have a good walk? You're so good. You're so good. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and just add a few tiny little metallic accents to the berries. And the reason I'm doing this is because one, it'll help the image to pop, and it will also tie in the gold of the frame. So I'm trying not to put too much pressure with my wrist on the stenciling, but I'm also giving it just a little bit of extra time to dry. So I don't know if you can see those berries or how they're doing this. Oh Lord. Okay. So please ignore whoever that is. That I don't know where these people come from, you guys. These people that, you know, they love your post, they love your smile, these crazy men. or I don't even think that they're real people. I think they're just bots or something like that. So I'm sorry about that. I can't do anything about the comment right now, but I'll delete it as soon as we're done. So I thought that was a really long question. When I first glanced up, I thought, oh my goodness, that's a big question. I better get to that. And then I realized what it was. So what I'm doing is just adding a little bit of the gold. I think it makes those pop just a little bit more. And it also is going to tie in the gold of the frame, which is what we're going to do next. And this is just a tiny little brush. I'm not even sure where I got this one. Okay, so anyway, so while I'm doing this on a personal note, so my husband's birthday is Saturday, and he's entering a new decade 6 months before I do. He always gets to try it out before I do. So do you see those little glitter bits? I think those are, thank you so much, Shannon. Thank you for reporting it. And oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. It takes a village, right? And so anyway, so he's entering a new decade before I do. So now you can see like those little glimmer bits. And when we add the gold to our actual frame, I think it's going to be brilliant. So I'm just going to even then further come in here and just paint out a little bit what is kind of just doing a little bit of extra something in here. Where was I? Okay. So my husband's birthday is Saturday, and we have a whole weekend planned. And part of that weekend is that we are going to an exhibit at the Gaylord at National Harbor, which is outside of DC. And so we're going there and we're really excited about it. But you guys, so we're going to the Titanic exhibit, which I'm really excited about. I think it's going to be really super fun. Loved the movie, all of that. But here's the deal. This has been a really big celebratory year for us. He's entering the new decade to test it out for both of us and let me know what he thinks. And we celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary. We welcomed our first grandchild this year. I mean, it has been one big kind of like, holy cow, full of blessings kind of year, right? And, but we are celebrating the big birthdays and our 30th wedding anniversary and all of that by going on a cruise in February. Our first pleasure cruise, right? I've never been on anything but a dinner cruise. And my husband was only a guest of the Navy as he was on a ship as when he was active duty Marine Corps. So anyway, I was like, I'm really excited to go see this exhibit. I'm not sure that it was the best exhibit to go to right before you go on your first cruise. So my sister called me yesterday and I was telling her this and she said, she put my mind at ease. So I think it's going to be all good. But anyway, so I am just adding, so that was my little, thank you for hanging in there with me while I shared that. All right. So we just have a little bit of shimmer, right? Just a little bit of shimmer in here. And so now what I want to do is I want to go ahead. I believe this is all dry enough for me to do. And let's go ahead and I want to show you how this paints out. So it's going to be a little bit of grainy because it is baking soda. It's not meant to be a texture paste on its own. Okay. But we're getting that detail. Okay. And then what I think I want to do, and yes, thank you, Shannon. And yeah, but it's all going to be okay. My sister put my mind at ease. So it's all going to be good. I was just like, that's kind of like watching, oh gosh, what was that movie that made everybody afraid to go into the ocean for a while? And so I was like, we just laughed about it. I mean, we're fine. We're really excited to go on the cruise in February. But I was like, boy, that was an interesting exhibit to go see, but we're super excited about it. And then Saturday night, we're going to go out to dinner with my youngest, and then our oldest and his family are coming to spend, well, our family that we have because of our oldest is they're going to come and spend Thanksgiving with us. So I'll tell you more about that all later. I'm trying to prepare. So anyway, let's look at the difference. Okay, so you can see that we have some gold paint here, and you can see that the texture shows up. Jaws, yes, that was it. Oh my goodness, Shannon, yes, that was it. And so here, but what I'm going to do is also then add some dark wax just to make this pop a little bit. And I don't know if we'll be able to do that tonight. I've already been on quite a while. And so I'm going to, but isn't that gold pretty with that image? I think the gold is just beautiful with it. So we'll go ahead and dry this. And then I think I can. I just don't think I have my dark wax with me. So I'll have to show you what that looks like probably tomorrow. But I want to bring out the details of this. And so we have a little interest in our frame. It doesn't really look so much like a panel board anymore. So I think that's kind of nice. And so we'll do that. But this is how it looks like that. And I love the raised stenciling. And we were able to use parts of both of the frame stencils. And so we're almost done here. Before I do the sides, I will kind of hold it like this. Let me go ahead and hold it like this. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to use my flat brush. And remember how I said that if I had a little bit of white showing through or my paper wasn't just perfect, this is how I'm going to address it. I'm going to go ahead and use my flat brush and just do the tiniest bit of an edge, and it'll just look like part of the frame. You'll see that when we do that tomorrow, when I share the finished project with you. Okay, so I'm going to come here and go there. So you can see how we're just addressing that little bit of a white edge there, right? And so I'm going to turn it this way, and let's go ahead and get the rest of those sides. I am always going in different places with my paper. And I know I'm just laying my brush flat. And then if I go a little too much on my paper where I don't want it, it's a lot easier to wipe off when I have sealed my paper. So that's another reason that you want to seal your paper before you do any of these things. So these wood cradles are super, super sweet to work with. Okay, so we're doing that. And here we go. I know this is long, you guys. I'm trying to go fast. I'm trying. It's hard. Okay. And then we're going to just kind of come here. I'm going to push my flat. So a flat brush works best for something like this. And then, like I said, if I get a little more than I want, I can just run my finger along this, and it just kind of blends it in a little bit. Okay, and then, but I just don't want any of that white to show, right? And then you'll have gold paint all over yourself, or whatever color metallic you're working with. And then, like I said, I won't be able to do the dark wax tonight because I didn't pull it out. I didn't really think of that step before. Oh, Shannon, thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you. I really appreciate it. You're always kind of like, oh my goodness, like I get quiet when I'm concentrating, and it's like watching a silent movie for all of you, I'm sure. And not the good kind, like with Laurel and Hardy, but just, it's like, oh my goodness. So I wish I could be that entertaining, but okay, let's see. Okay, so we've got this coming together, and then we've got that raised stenciling part, right? And then I'll have to do the sides. And I can dry this up and grab my dark wax, but it's basically just brushing on the dark wax. So I'm thinking that, I don't know, you can tell me if it's worth it, if, or if you'd just rather trust me and see the, the end result. And that's fine too. I won't be offended at all. I totally get it. Okay. All right, let's go here. I'm just going to push my finger in here. I just love the little bit of detail that stencil gives. I like how versatile it is. I love how you can use both parts of it, that it really isn't dependent on the size of the piece that you're working on. I will paint the back of this in the gold color as well and do my, so the difference is that when you turn a panel like this around, you have a flat surface. And so if you're working on the flat surface, like if we had done the design on this side, then you just need a nail and you can hang this. But when you're working on something like this and you're turning it around, then you actually need to put a hanger on it. And so I'm going to want the back to be finished, of course, for sure. And I'm going to put some little, I'll show you. When I take the pictures tomorrow, I'll show you the back of it as well so that you can see the how I do this. I put some little, they're not the felt things like you use on furniture. They're the little, they're like little bumpers that you put on. So if I have those, I will put the bumpers on. If I don't have them, I'll have to put the felt things on because that'll be what I have. But I don't know if I'll do a sawtooth hanger or just a D-ring or what, but I'll figure that out tomorrow. And then the best place to put them is wherever the thickness. If you're working on a panel board like this, you want to put it up here, not down in the center, but you want to put it up in here. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. We're going to finish off these edges. And then I love it. And I love that we've got that little bit of gold in the actual paper that we added because I think it just ties everything in. That's just me. You may not prefer that, but I really, really love that. Okay, and we'll go here and here. We're going to finish that up. I'll let this dry, and then what I'll do is paint the back of it. Do you want to see the wax or are you good? I don't know. I can grab it, but I'm thinking that everybody's done. It just adds a little bit of antiquing to it. And so I want to come in here. I don't want any, I want to kind of smooth that out. So this is kind of what we end up with is something like, I'm trying to think. I think you see it the way I do. Okay, I've got my camera turned right. I never know if I have my camera turned appropriately or not. And so this, I'm just going to go ahead and risk it. But so this is what we have. And so this is the panel board. I will go ahead and do this. I'm going to let this dry and I'll go ahead and, are you sick to death of me always talking about diamond glaze? Because I just love it. So I will, here's the thing. If I had applied this metallic paint and then I added my matte sealer, it would basically take away the shine. At least it would take away the metallic nature of the paint because the matte varnish or the matte, the OHE clear that I use is going to mattify everything, right? And I don't want it to do that. So I think while this is wet, let's go ahead and use my diamond glaze. We can do that. Let me go ahead and dry this up a little bit. And then we will, I tell you what, I'm just going to do whatever I am going to do because if you guys need to go, you will. And again, I'm not offended. It's okay. I totally get it. But at least if you come back here and you watch on replay, you can see the project kind of start to finish and we'll go from there. I'm going to dry this paint up just so I don't mess it up too much. Wax is always last. So you never, ever, ever want to put wax on a piece and then try to put a water-based medium on that or use anything. So always just say to yourself, put a sticky note someplace, whatever you have to do to remember. But wax is always, always last. And so I will do this and then grab my wax and we will take care of that. But I'm going to go ahead and do a little diamond glaze in here. And then it will give it as if it's under glass. And so, oh, thank you so much, Joy. You guys are great. Oh my goodness. You have the patience. You guys are like, you have the patience of the saints. I'm telling you. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Just get this dried up enough so it's not wet, 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 wet. Okay. And let me feel that. Okay. So that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and so I'm going to wax this, right? We're going to use a dark wax on this. We'll use a clear wax and then we'll use a dark wax. And the reason that I'm okay with the wax is because the wax doesn't have a mattifying agent in it. The Wise Owl metallic paint does not need a top coat for something that is like this. It's a decor piece. It's going to be hung up on a wall. It's not going to be touched or anything like that. If I were to seal this with the matte finish, it would take down the sheen and that metallic, that metallic brilliance of the paint. So it would mattify it. And so I don't want to do that. So I'm going to use a wax. I'm going to use a clear wax, and then I'm going to use a dark wax, and it's going to antique this up a little bit. But before I do that, what I want to do is to use a little bit of, you knew it was coming. I'm going to use my diamond glaze for this. And so I am just going to, I'm going to do a little bit in here because what I like to do is see if I can get any bubbles out. I'm going to just put it in here like this, just like that, right? And all I want to do is give this a look of being under glass. And I'm going to be super careful as I go to the edges because I don't want to get all up in my frame and get it all on the sides and the edges and all of that. So normally you see me do it like I'm decorating a cookie, and I usually go around the edge and then I fill in like we're flooding royal icing. But on something like this, I'm just going to brush it into place, and I may have to do another coat tomorrow. But what I love about this is all of a sudden it looks like it is framed and under glass. And I love, love, love that look. You can see when that dries, it's going to be crystal clear and it's going to level out. And I just love that. So now doesn't that look like it's under glass? I just love that. All right. So I'm not going to worry too much about that, but I am going to bear with me 1 second. I'm so sorry to go off camera, but I'll go ahead and grab my waxes if I can find them quickly. If I can't, then, we'll go to plan B. But hold on 1 second. I'm over here. Hopefully I got my waxes and I know where to find them and it's going to be all good. I just have to see what I can get over here. And then, of course, I have to move a million things in my cabinet to get to it. But let's see what we got. Okay. I'm going to use, I don't know what I got. Okay. I'm not finding it super, super easy. What did I do with it? Okay. Hold on, guys. I'm coming. I really am. I'm going to see what I got. I have some dark wax. All right. Okay. We're going to go ahead and try this. Okay. I couldn't find the antiquing waxes that I wanted to use, but I have a little bit of a beeswax in here. So this is a a clear beeswax, and then I have just this like sample of the dark wax from a kit. And so let's just use these. Okay. We'll just do that. I won't be able to do the inside until tomorrow because the diamond glaze is drying, but we're going to just go ahead and do this. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take a brush, just a chip brush like this, and I'm putting it into my wax. I really need a piece of something. What have I got? All right. I'm going through my trash, you guys. Okay. To get something snapped out. Oh my gosh. All right. So what I want to do is just kind of offload some of this. So I'm just offloading some of that wax so I don't put too much wax. And I always want to do a clear wax before I do a dark wax, because otherwise all I'm doing is staining my piece. And I don't want to do that. I just want to get enough on there that it provides a barrier for it, but it's not going to I have more control over wiping it away if I need to. And so I'm just always use your clear wax before you use the dark wax, because then you can use your clear wax as an eraser if you need to. And so I want to offload so that I don't have too much. I just want to I want to kind of go in here and I'm going to kind of swirl around these corners that we did, because I want to make sure I get in all those edges. Okay. So we're going to do the top part of this, but we're not going to do the bottom part of it because I don't want to mess with that. I don't want to get in here where the diamond glaze is drying, and I don't want to have to pick it up and get dark wax all over my hands. I don't have another chip brush to use, so I'm going to sacrifice one of my little brushes here. And again, I'm going to offload that, right? But I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to go in a circular motion like this. And we're going to antique this up a little bit, okay? Just like this. I'm going to just kind of come in here. I didn't let that clear wax really tack up much, but you're going to see when we go here. So let me go here, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of come in here a little bit. I'm going to try to do 1/2, and I think that will be how you can see the difference. So we're going to go here and we're going to go up to here, and then I will finish up the rest. But I want to go ahead and show you the difference. It's very subtle, but it keeps it from being first of all, it doesn't mess with your sheen, which I really appreciate. And then second, what it does is that, all right, let me show you the difference. So see, you can hear I'm picking this up. So if I say I didn't want this here, but because I clear waxed it, I can go right over that and pick that up, right? So I can basically erase my dark wax by using clear wax. And I can only do that because I applied the clear wax first. So just as I said, the best advice that I can give you is just always wax is always, always last. So now I can come back over here. And again, we're just going to, I can do this in a couple of, applications. However, if I want more or less, but I want you to be able to see the difference between this side and the other. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of buff this out. I'll buff it out further once it has a chance to set up a little bit. But I'm hoping you can see the difference. So it's very, very subtle, but it is a little more antiqued than this side. And I think it just gives it, just a really nice little vintage feel. We could also add a little crackle with our crackle stamp. You know how I am. I may get up tomorrow and decide that it needs that. And I know you'll forgive me if I do. But I'd have a hard time with that because I've already waxed this. So that would be really difficult to get anything to stick for it. But here is the side without, and here is the side. So you can see it's just a little more antiqued. What I like about adding the antiquing wax, you could do this as a glaze or something like that. But what I like about it is that you just get a little more definition around your details. So, all right, I could keep going and going and going. And I know nobody has time for that. So I just want to say, let's see if I can get up here. I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. Shannon, thank you so much for reporting that person. I I'm so disappointed that those things happen. But they do. And so anyway, thank you, Joanne. I appreciate it. So thank you, Shannon, so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. We don't always have, we can't do things like in the minute. Like I'd love to block that person or delete a report or whatever. But anyway, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here with me. Thank you for creating with me again this week. I really appreciate it. I will actually be teaching an online class on Wednesdays for the next 2 weeks. So I will see you the Wednesday before Thanksgiving on Royce's page again. And I just thank you so much. I hope wherever you are that you are well. And I appreciate you. You have a wonderful evening too, Shannon. And I will see you guys soon. Take care wherever you are. Thank you so much. And I will see you the Wednesday before Thanksgiving on Royce's page again. All right. Take care, everybody. Good night.